Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Livia Moretti, and I am the Manager of Education for ITERO Latin America. It is a pleasure to be with you here in Expand Digital Odontology. This event will guide you to the world of possibilities of digital odontology, and Align will be your great partner in this trip. Thank you for being with us connected tonight. In order to participate in this class, send us question through the chat, which is in the lower part of your screen. At the end of this class, there will be a QR code with a poll. It is very important for us to know your opinion, to know about it, and also improve our classes and interaction with all of you. Therefore, it is our pleasure to introduce you to our speaker tonight. Dr. Ricardo Gonzalez is a reference in all Latin America in integrated odontology. He is an odontologist, specialized in odontology, and he studied at the University of Washington. As a speaker of ITERO, he's a top doctor in Anvisa and also a lover of personalized treatment, high-end technology, and digital odontology, always looking for the best options for the patients with interdisciplinary treatments. Dr. Ricardo Gonzalez, it is a great honor to have you with us in this great event for all Latin American countries. Thank you very much, Olivia. Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you also for the invitation to be part of this event. And also thank you for Align for the invitation and for all of those who are behind the scenes, and welcome all the doctors to this presentation, where the main objective of mine is to share with you my experience with ITERO. Not only about how I started, but also what I have been able to do with ITERO and how I have grown in my practice and my practice and experience thanks to this digital tool. So this, I really like to call it the ideal tool. ITERO is the ideal tool because this is my starting point. With it, I start the diagnosis, and with it, I can plan all of the treatment. And just to give you a very quick introduction, well, Olivia has already introduced me, but I am Dr. Ricardo, and I studied in Mexico, in UTEC. And right now, currently, this is my greatest source of work, working with Invisalign. I also am part of Invisalign show site, where I help doctors to know about ITERO and explain how it works. And of course, I allow them to see my practice. As I have grown in my practice, I have lost my fear of the unknown, because sometimes we bring our unquietedness and sometimes our desire to make everything work out, but then sometimes you are afraid of whether or not this is good for the clinic and whether or not you should use. But anyway, this is not me today. Today, I feel very comfortable, and so I would like to invite everybody who's around me to come and visit me in my office. But to those of you who unfortunately are not close to us, I would like to share with you the tools with you tonight, all of my experience, the experience that I have acquired along the time I have been working with ITERO. So what are we going to be seeing tonight? Well, a very short introduction to ITERO, the basic tools. And I know that some of you have already heard about other practices, and some of you have already seen demos of ITERO, but I would like to be brief in the part of tools and what you can do with ITERO. But I want you to see how I have done, how I have used these tools with my patients and how these tools have helped me, which is this part is my experience with iTero, and then we are going to have the closure and finally questions. And I would really like to invite you to ask questions. I would like to clarify any doubts that you may have. And as Livia said, if you have any question, in the lower part of this screen, there is a Q&A where you can write your questions so that I can answer the questions in the best way possible. Actually, it's not a Q&A. It's a chat box that you can plug to. So anyway, let's start with the introduction. And a very great sentence, a statement by Jordan that says, in any investment, you expect to have fun and make money. So let's go straight to the point. This is exactly what I would like to show you, that iTero is an opportunity of investment. It's not something that I would see as something that is going to lose value. Of course, there will be a devaluation because of mechanics, but this is only going to add value to your office. Another thing, digital odontology is very fun, and I really love it. Definitely, in the digital world, there are many other possibilities, but I love iTero. And finally, we're going to decide if you want to invest in your office to have added value. Of course, this is a great opportunity. So here, the important thing is to transform, to change the analogical, that which we know, that we have known for so long, to the digital world. I really like to put these images because the impression that we've learned to do in the first years of college, we learned to have this model made with some material, but now we have the digital that you can carry on your phone and you can go anywhere. You are going to use at the best way possible in your office. And this is what makes the great difference in your appointment. Something important. Between them, we have something that is the biosecurity. You can feed. When I talk about I'm talking about the cross-contamination or dismissed material. Of course, our goal here is to be bio-safe as possible. And we want to dismiss as little material as possible, because these materials, they usually have the saliva of the patient. And of course, when you finish using, you have to sanitize. And of course, this all creates a risk of cross-contamination, which increases with the traditional odontology. So what are the advantages? As I said, this is going to be a short introduction. Everyone who says, everyone who has an iTero, these are the points that we are going to focus on. For example, you can have a better documentation of you're going to have a better documentation of your clients, instead of having those big drawers with piles and piles of paper, especially because we have no idea how many years of practice you have. And of course, that generates a whole pile of files, instead of having everything like you have here with iTero online in the cloud. You also have a great connection with labs, with dental labs. So the files to export practically cover all of the great systems for fabrication of all the materials that are necessary for your practice. So you have all of your files already open so they can be exported. They're very precise. The connection is very precise. It helps you in doing the marketing as well. We're going to explain to you how it works. And of course, you're going to have a better control of quality, or quality control. You're going to standardize all of your procedures, because sometimes you could have different models and you could have blocks, for example, on the screen. But here, with the quality control, quality is standardized. And what results are we looking for? Well, we are directly connected with Invisalign, where, for example, when I open my office, it's I already have Invisalign, and all the offices are seeking to be integrated, and iTero is helping dentists to integrate their office in a much faster and also with more precision. Because, for example, I study odontology, and I know that when I can supervise my students, for example, or my clients, or I mean, my people who work with me, it's much easier. And of course, my patients are going to feel a lot more safer with our structure. So this is basically what we gain. And also for the patient, this is great, because our impressions can be done much faster instead of those analogical systems that they use. And of course, the materials that they use sometimes can be not as good as the scanner. For example, today with these scanners, we can just do the measurement. I mean, just take the necessary images of our clients without much intrusion, and it's much more. It has a lot more of added value. And of course, there aren't many offices that have this kind of offices, especially if they are iTero. So this is a great added value, and this is something that is going to set us apart from our colleagues and from the competition. So this is definitely going to take us much further. So this is the introduction. I believe that with these points, I mean, this is the starting point, and it's like the reasons why I have decided to choose this tool. And I believe that you should take into account all of these points when you consider making an investment. Now, I would like to talk to you about the tools. Just to give you a very quick overview, I would like to share my experience, especially in clinical cases. So the tools are going to make our lives easier, right? I mean, we can provide a much better service to our clients. And so we are going to lower our treatment time, and we're going to take impressions, and we're going to, instead of sending our clients to a radiological center, that's a waste of time. We're able to diagnose everything in the office, which makes our life a lot easier, right? So what I would like to show to you is that iTero is a great scanner, like many on the market. But the thing is, only iTero is going to have 3 tools that the others don't have. So, for example, if you're looking for a scanner, I would give you, if you were going to choose a tool based on their exclusive tools, then iTero is the one. Because all the other scanners are digital, they are precise, they're able to provide a crown, or I mean, the materials you need. Any material, any scanner can do that, all right? But these additional tools, they are going to make a great difference, especially with the intraoral scanners. And this is something that you should take into account. So what are the 3 great features of iTero? Well, the first one is the simulator, in which the patient can see the before and after. you can have a proposal that is much better for the client. You also have the progress assessment, which is an assessor of the progress of your treatment. And we also have the time lapse, which is a comparison between the scans of different periods of time. So, of course, some people may say, oh, but I'm not an orthodontist, you know? So this is not going to be an attractive tool for me. However, with the outcome simulator is great, because if you go to an orthodontist who works with, if you have an orthodontist who works with you, so you can help them to sell the treatment of orthodonty. And time lapse is for everyone, because time lapse is comparison. It's going to serve, for example, to assess a dental wearing off. For example, you're going to scan, and then you can scan, for example, 1 month, 1 year, and then you can see whether or not the teeth are wearing off on the surface. And if you have had any sort of recession that is progressing, so the time lapse is a great tool to make a comparison. You can see if there has had any progress, or if the progress, or if there is no progress at all. In other words, if the teeth are moving, but you can also see on a periodontal and also on a functional standpoint. So these are the tools that are exclusive from iTero. If we could give further explanation on it, we would see, for example, how the simulator works. So here I'm going to show you a video of how this tool works. So you scan the patient, and it's very easy, because with iTero, you're going to have the file, and you just click on the word create simulation. And so by itself, the computer is going to calculate, convert the scan into a virtual model on a Invisalign style, in which we're going to be able to show the patient the before and after. And this is in less than a minute. So this is going to give you a proposal. And this is interesting because, for example, sometimes the proposal is not sometimes just as good. For example, when they sometimes they do not take into account many factors. And so here, this is where the dentist, the expert, you could be the expert in iTero and say, well, if it is a dental implant, then I know that the tooth doesn't move. So in this way, we can make our corrections on the system. And then, even though the system can give me a result, I can change the result to whatever I think it's better. And I can also demonstrate to the patient all of my experience in the usage of this tool. For example, if we compare, for example, if we look at the time lapse, we can see a video. Right now I am selecting my 2 scans. And this is finally, I can see, this is for a patient that wasn't very motivated by the dental moves. And this is just to show you how I can use monochrome. Sometimes I use different colors, and I simply put this small kind of glass over it. And so I can see how the tooth is moving if you look on the right side of the screen. So sometimes the patients say, oh, but Invisalign, sometimes they say, oh, Invisalign is like this. But of course, I tell you, this is a great tool, because when you use this tool, using this tool, they help me show the client whether or not the treatment is working. And also the patient feels like it's being worth the investment that they are making on me. This is an example reflecting the dental, but of course we can use time lapse, for example, for any change or restoration or anything like that. So This is an example of time lapse. And an example of progress and assessment is, for example, here you compare an initial case with the basis of the treatment. So we can see here the teeth that are in green are the ones that are following the measurements. The one in yellow are the ones that are moving fine, but not so much. The teeth green, the teeth that are, I mean, this color, this, and we have different colors for the different kinds of movements. So, for example, you can have a power of action and reaction that. So this also serves to have a better biomechanic of the aligners. And finally, what you can see is the restoration, because dental restoration sometimes is like the daily bread. I mean, we could have an expert, but in the area of restoration. Of course, we've always studied odontology, and one thing that we have all learned is how to restore teeth. This is our greatest point of interest. So these videos, they are great examples and we can select, and for example, let's say I'm going to make a crown. So I'm going to make the crown. I can decide the material that the crown is going to be. And anyway, I can decide, for example, if I'm going to make a design, what kind of bolimeter I am going to use. And also, it gives me the instructions on a technical level. For example, it says, if you say, oh, I want a restoration with a different color, but of course, you could say that you want a different color, you want to have a more yellowish color. So these tools, they are great, and they work almost as a, they gave you this great digital possibility. And once you have finished, you just can finalize the scanning. So we can see all of them here in this screen. So we have already scanned. We're definitely going to see another, just to show you as a tool. I have my scan already done, so I can visualize the preparation that I'm going to make for my patient. So I can activate the fluxogram to see the point. And I also can see how far I am from the original plan. In other words, I can see the progress. I can see, I mean, this is nothing but like a test, you know, just to see how the scan is going to do. So this is not a scan only for orthodontists, but for any office that does restoration. You have an amazing tool. But as you can see, these are the different addition, which is the camera. So it always has this protection. So if we remove this part, then we can see the camera itself as it is. And here we have the final slams that are like the cover for, I mean, these covers that are for that it can be used for different patients, and they are disposable. So you don't have any problem with cross infection, because you can remove from patient to patient, just like we use gloves. For every different patient, you use a different glove. We can also use these different covers for every patient, so that you don't have any problem of cross-contamination. That way, we don't allow that the camera touches any fluid of the patient. And so this is a much closer look. And as we see these tools and the basic, which is for restoration, and the exclusive, then I'm going to start now speaking about my experience. And one thing that I really one sentence that I like to mention when I talk about experience is that sometimes, especially with this practice, because I wouldn't pretend, sometimes because of lack of, if you have a good experience, you can save up on your time. But one thing that I would like to let you know here that is very important to know is that everything is a learning curve. Of course, you may be afraid in the beginning, but you must not be afraid of the lack of experience. Experience you are going to acquire, and we are going to do our best. So how can I summarize iTarot? Well, iTarot is we show what we see in a more simple way to the patient, because sometimes this happens a lot with the patients that I start, for example, to explain about a bad bite, and then I say, oh, imagine that you are going to bite like this, and then you are going to have your teeth like that. So everything is based on the imagination of the patient. But with iTarot, everything that I have in here is visual for the patient to say, oh, I can say, oh, here I have some caries. Here I have a problem. So I really love it because this is my main tool for diagnosis. So moving on, I'm now going to show you a video. It has some details. This was before the pandemic. This was in a moment that I wasn't in an appointment. So I was very excited. I had just got my iTarot and I said, I have to scan. And this is exactly what I did. So I invited someone to be part of this video of my first scan. Workflow. Well, this was my first experience. And so from there, I saw amazing things. As you can see, for example, how fast it was to do the first scan, and something that I really love about this company is that they always are reinvesting and reinventing technologies. And this video, it shows you that it has a lot of, for example, when you do scan, when you don't do scan, you have a lot of noisy zones, for example, because of the tongue. And we're also using a lot of artificial intelligence to clean all of the noise that you may have in the image. That simplifies our work, because sometimes you ask the patient, remove your tongue, put your tongue here, put your tongue there. And of course, with this tool, you can do it all by yourself. And of course, this gives us a much cleaner work, and it's much easier to be used. So this certain and confidence in what I do, not only because it helps me, but also because it works much better. And well, after that, of course, you're going to be parts of our orthodonty, because this is my main thing. But I would like to show you what has helped me in this area of odontology. And this case is interesting because after scanning, of course, we can change, for example, molar inclusion. But of course, it also helps you to detect, for example, the third molar. Sometimes when you use when the client says that the tooth is very hurts, etc. And of course, here in this scan, you can see a much better image, because the scan can reach up to the very back of the mouth, and there we can see the third molar. Sometimes the dentist may say, oh, we need to have a radiography, and then you're taken to the office. I mean, you're taken to a lab. Here, you have everything. In the office, we already can, you can see the technology. All the team already knows exactly what to do. For example, here the patient, the doctor can decide if they want to remove that tooth, or if what they want to do. So in this case, for example, I took a panoramic, and so I had to remove the tooth because of the scary that the patient had in this tooth. So it's like, okay, this is also helping me in the part of odontology. Now, in the workflow, when someone says, okay, I want to be 100% digital, so what do we need? Well, I think that the main tool in the office is the scanner of iTero. Photo uploader is a tool that we also have, and it's part of iTero. And it's an application that helps us to have clinical photography in a much more accessible fashion. And of course, if you had it in your office, if you had a tomography or anything like that, well, these tools give you a much better workflow in your office. Well, you also will be able to to make your planification, your plans from the computer. And you have, for example, on one side, you have the patient, and on the other side, you have the model of how it's going to be. And of course, you can start making all the process online, I mean, in a digital environment, you can see what are who are going to participate, what material you're going to need. And then finally, you make your prosthesis, you make your surgery, you make the treatment of Invisalign. And all of this is done in a system that is characterized via Invisalign. And after all, everything is in the computer and everything is at your reach. And you don't need a lot of skills, but what you need is intellectual skills instead of physical skills. You're able to plan well, you're able to design well, you have all the tools that are going to facilitate so you can reach the goal that you want. So if we could see this in a workflow, of course, trying to explain in different fashions, such as in videos, you also have a list with objectives. If we had a workflow, we could start, for example, here. The patient requires a treatment. So we would know in order to know what the patient needs, you have to take a radiography, you're going to use photoclouder, you have with or without iTero. But in this flow, I have here my focus on orthodonty, but I could also have, for example, my focus on a crown. If you don't have iTero, then you can take the impression, and iTero is going to help you to make the patient see visually, because sometimes you explain what the model is going to be. You show the patient how it's going to be in the plaster. So with this tool, you can just use the mouth of your client as a reference point. Then you finally start the treatment. And so this is why I tell you that this is a tool. I mean, this is not going to solve your life, but this is a tool that is going to facilitate our lives in the office. So as we understand a better workflow, and this is what I'm telling you, you can scan the photo uploader. Here I have prepared a video in which I explain to you about the biosafety, that this is something that is very keen to us. And this was post-pandemic. And now, of course, I'm going to show you the digital flow. Of course, we have the photo uploader that gives you an introduction, but this is not the goal of this presentation. But what I would like to show to you is the advantages of the treatment. So if you want to ask any question, please make sure to do so. And for those of you who have just connected, if you want to ask any question, in the lower part of this screen, there is a chat box where you can write your questions, all right? So I'm going to show the video to you now. Workflow, first appointment. You see, this is my experience. When you see the different uses that you can give, you start to see that it's actually cheap. I mean, of course, this is an investment. However, you start to see that, wow, I'm glad that I am able to afford, because then now I'm able to have different diagnoses and have better treatments. And of course, the patients stay. So of course, the power is in your hands. And just like the advertisement says, but this is not just mere marketing. I put you in the word can, the power in bold, because it's not the power in the terms of what you can do, but in terms of, I mean, in terms of having power over people, but in terms of what you can do. And that power is in your hands. For example, if you want to make retainers, if you want to make crowns, if you want to make crowns, what do you want to do? Itero gives you everything. It gives you everything. You have the power. You have the power to do it. So this is why I put the word power in bold. And this is something that really works. I am an orthodontist, and I don't have, for example, I have doctors who do works such as caries and stuff like that. But what I would like to show you in this image is that how things work. For example, if I have a patient who is a patient who has bruxism, I can treat very easily. We use iTero, where we activate the part to send the I mean, you choose the options as you have seen in the video. Of course, you have a lot of options, but you go straight to the point. We can see how a doctor is scanning the area of interest that is very specific. We're trying to, I mean, what we want to do is to ensure that the image copies, that the scan copies the best image possible. One thing that is good about iTero is when you are going to scan an area, the quality of the impression, the quality of the image is much better. We have the scan. We can see the preparation that was done by the doctor. We can see the separation. And if we use monochrome, we can use the tool that is embedded in iTero, and then I can, for example, see my impression, and I can also see, I can limit my determination to send, to send to my technician saying, look, this is my line. And of course, if it were not this way, you would not be able to see. But the good thing is when the technician sees the impression and sees the preparation, here you notice the difference. Here you can notice the detail of the precision of this scan. The images in 3D are built in 3 angles. They built triangles to measure everything like height, depth, and everything. So we can see in the external part the images in different triangles. This is the standard scanner of iTero. However, when we are going to do something very precise where the precision has to be perfect, we reduce the size of the triangles so that we can have the most perfect images possible. So when they are made, everything can be perfect. The crown will be perfect. So we go back to this issue of the crown, of course. because here we show you the image. I am not a man who make practices. I'm not a prosthesist, but I can understand a lot better how all of these tools work. And of course, it makes me feel a lot more secure to say, oh, we can make more crowns because I want my doctors to work more in this kind of treatment. Here in this video, you can see that I can select the tooth that has been scanned or the zone of the scan. I can activate the color to show what is the distance that I have between my preparation and the antagonist tooth. And if we look here, my scale of value, for example, in this video, I am able to see, for example, in black, it's one, I mean, in red is 1.1. So all of the surfaces that are 1.1 will be red, while the further they are getting colder colors. So we can see these areas in blue, which means that I have an intercrossal distance of 2.1 millimeters. And there are also this distance between 1.3 and 1.4 millimeters, which makes me feel a lot safer, for example, to use the image in the preparation to avoid risk of fractures. But if I go a little bit further in this video, because you can see, for example, in one part, let me show to you. If we look, you can see that this is a little bit angled. If you look at the image, it really calls your attention that the gum changes color, you see? And you can see it because this is exactly the precision. It gives you on the scanners on the market don't give you this level of precision. So from this area, and basically halfway through the second molar, we can see the area of maximum precision very well delimited. So this is something that it's good. Why? Because in the scan, you can see this difference very clearly. So you see these points of space, and this makes your life a lot easier, because what I've learned in prosthesis is if you don't have a margin, you can have a lot of fracture. The intercrossal points, intercrossing points, they fracture, but with iTero, it helps me to know whether or not I need to prepare more, or if the preparation that I have is good enough to make the restoration I need. So we also have the preparation, and we ask the crown to be made, and then we just send the crown to be made. And so we make and we corroborate with the adjustments. So I like to share it with you because this is not done only during. I mean, it shows you not only the before, but also the after, how the restoration is going to look like. And you can see how it was before, and you can see how it is now. So the before and after. And of course, if we study further, if we become more scientific, what do we have? Well, first of all, you have to say that iTero has the necessary precision and trustworthiness. There are many articles that support this information. It's not about what scanner is better or which one has more precision. All scanners are good. All scanners are precise. The question here is, which one may help you have a better diagnosis? What gives you a plus? What is going to be what is the scanner that is going to give you a much better result than any other scan? these are articles that compare all the scanners that say, these are scanners, these are articles that say all scanners are good in terms of precision and trustworthiness, but you have to go a little bit deeper. And of course, there are many evidences that support the cases. And many times I bring you this slide just to show you these slides. Just to show you these articles, but I also like to mention my experience, because you probably are a doctor like myself and you probably don't believe me. But well, here we have the articles, here we have the papers that show you the level. So I invite you to try. For example, I'll show you a case. This is a quick case. It's a quick case because this is a patient that was feeling well, but the patient had a few spaces. He didn't want to spend a lot of money. So there are some Invisalign materials that are a lot more accessible. And this is exactly what the patient wanted. So as a good orthodontist, I had the task of taking the picture, took radiography to improve the restorations. You can see that he has a dental implant. So in this case, this is not my focus. It's not that the diagnosis is not my focus. My focus is precision and trustworthiness. So the value of what is going to happen, for example, in his face. And this is my experience with this simulator. With the patient, when the patient comes, this was one of my first patients scanned for Invisalign. So I had a scanner. I was very happy. I wanted to use it. So sometimes you may wonder, who should I use this scanner on? Well, you should use on all the patients, because sometimes the patient may have come to a cleansing, but after the scanning, you can see that the patient has, for example, some caries. You can sell restoration, or you can sell a resin, or any material, any service. The client has come to do a cleansing of their teeth, but comes out with another service. So, for example, in this case, I sometimes what happened to me is that I used a simulator, but sometimes I use I use the scanner, but I can see that the client wanted to close a gap, but the gap wasn't closed. So with the simulator, what you need to do is you take the image, and then you can make the adjustment, and you can see that here I can make that adjustment myself. I can solve the problem. So you already know that you may have to make some adjustments if necessary, but these are like a stamp of a great outcome, because the scan is not always going to give you a perfect result, because these are algorithms, right? And so this is when we, as experts, we can manipulate a little bit the manipulations and show to the client that yes, you can just make the necessary adjustments. It's not just about approving the cases. No, right? You have to make sure that the patient has the best result possible. So I looked at the patient and I asked a very simple question. The question was, is this going to be good? Is this going to look good? So what I do is I make a simulation and I put an image of the patient, and I can see that the image is very precise. I scan the image and then I ask for a conversion into Invisalign, and that with Invisalign, I want to have the results. So This is great, right? With iTero, I can do that. iTero serves to Invisalign. It serves also for restoration. So I can see pictures, real pictures of the patient, the picture of the scan, and here is a picture, which in this case is also is a video, which shows you how the teeth are going to be in a short and quick treatment to solve the problem. And what I was telling you is that this noise that you see here is the first scans. But right now, iTero by itself already eliminates these noises, and you can see the image a lot cleaner so that you can have this before and after of this quick treatment that the patient wanted. And of course, the patient now is very happy with the result. At the end, as was shown in the video with the little girl, or even with another patient where I'm going to analyze the radiography and everything, I can give two tips for marketing. For you now, the client, I mean, the dentist. You can, for example, do marketing appointment. You can have a marketing in a single appointment, or you can have different sessions. For example, you have video with iTero, you have images, pictures, and with that, I already have the tools to be very assertive in terms of treatment that I'm going to offer. And an important point here, the second plan is I take the pictures and I put them in a picture uploader. I do the scan. I take a quick panoramic. I also do a tomography. I can make the adjustments. I have the diagnosis, my treatment plan, and I use the simulator. Now we are going to see the best way to use the simulator. I can do what I call in-house, which is be face-to-face with the patient, and you can move the teeth yourself. Or if I am going to make a plan, I can get into the cloud, which is your cloud of iTero, that is called myitero.com. You type in your username and your password. And so once you're there, I open my simulator and I can see if the simulations are good or not. As I said, sometimes you may not have a perfection. So I can make the necessary adjustments. And then I have my second appointment to tell the patient, look, these are your teeth, these are your radiography, and this is what your smile is going to look like. So everything is ready. And then, of course, you get the client wants something to be done fastly and with confidence. So this is good marketing. And the client can say, oh, I am going to decide now, or maybe the client may say, oh, this is good, and I'm going to bring all my family, my friends, and everybody to be part of to be your client. This is a good example because we have already elected the prostheses, and we had already elected a point for surgery. We had a point for crown. Everything was precise. But what I like about the simulator and the result that I want to show you is that I can plan different projects for the client. And this is something that you can have for odontology, especially because in the simulator, I can put extractions, or I can put teeth that have implants and that cannot be moved. So in this case, it's interesting. I took the pictures, as you can see. I do the tomography to see how the teeth are like. We can see that this molar is kind of screwed. I can do the profile, and in this video, you can see we had to record it with an iPhone because this is one of those in-house. I only have this patient where I say, you know what? You are class 2, you have to move your teeth backwards, but your molars are not moving. So I can make a simulation saying, I am going to remove your wisdom tooth. And so if I remove your wisdom tooth, I will have to move different teeth so that I can have your occlusion class 1. And this is here. I mean, the patient is listening to me. He can hear my explanation and he can see how everything is done digitally. We are going to displace your teeth, move your teeth backwards. We are going to move up the curves that are down, and then we have the before and after. So clearly you can see my hand making all the necessary adjustments, and then I have the before and after. And the patient can ask, and if I don't want to remove my wisdom tooth, what should I do? Well, then I can say, I can help you with two premolars, two upper premolars. Wait a minute, let me adjust here. Okay, so we have this here. I just want to check that I'm not repeating the same image. So I have the following proposal, which is, okay, the patient doesn't want to have any teeth removed. I mean, the removal of his wisdom tooth. And this issue of digitalizing is very strong. So we are going to remove two premolars because they are class 2. So we generate a simulation of extraction of two upper premolars. And I can explain the patient what I need. Oh, but the simulation is not perfect because now we need your molar to be class 2 so that your canine, which is from a class 1, will be perfectly adjusted. So we leave your molars as they have to be, your canine as they have to be, and I show them how the extraction would be like and what would be the before and after. So this is something that helps me. If the patient says, I don't want to have a second appointment for explanation, I want to learn now. So you can give the patient plan A and plan B. So the patient knows that I am ready. I have different plans. I have all the necessary changes. So very easily, the patient will feel like choosing the treatment. So the machine, of course, you need to have a lot of experience with orthodonty to know what you can and what you cannot do, but it doesn't require a lot of science. It's very friendly, user-friendly, and it's a great tool. Well, this is what I tell you. That is iTarot is a great tool because what you're purchasing is a great tool, right? Now, analyzing, you may say, oh, doctor, what happened to this patient? Well, when we analyzed the third molar that was in this part, look at the roots. We said, well, when we remove the third molar, we're also going to remove the second molar because they are connected together. So we chose to remove two premolars and leave the third molars in a standby. In the future, if it bothers him, then we are going to reassess. But anyway, these are very complex cases that also may affect the decision making. Of course, if I had the tomography, that can be a lot more precise in terms of what my patient needs and what is best for the patient. So this is great. Now, iTarot keeps on investing on digital odontology. As I said, we have the cloud, myitarot.com. So what is it going to give you? It is going to give you it is going to give you a display, also an AutoCAD with analysis of the models. Also, I have my progress assessment tool and outcome simulator. Very important thing, you do not have time lapse. Time lapse is directly in iTero. But progress assessment and outcome simulator you can have from the cloud. You can access from the cloud. From any navigator you can get online. Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, so that you can visualize. In this image, we can see that we are on myitero.com, and it asks you for your login data. So this case that I have been showing you is a case that I prepared the patient, and I explained to you the marketing, that direct marketing in a single appointment, because in the same appointment I can sell the service. In this example of the patient, I am going to show you how I prepare a sale in 2 visits, one for pictures and one for explanation. So we take the pictures, we see that there is a congenital lack of a canine, which is a very interesting case. Deep bite, there is a tendency for class 2. This is rare because you see that there is a congenital lack of the canines, and also that the wisdom teeth are not fine. So we look at the image in a horizontal, on a profile fashion, and you can see that the front tooth is a little bit out of place. There are also a lot of discrepancies on the side. I analyze the profile, and so I have to give them a lot of proposals. What do I do? Do I extract the canine and I close the space? I extract, but I leave space, I leave room for implants. Is this a class 2? I could plan, and even if I know the right path to go, the patient needs to know what are the options that I have, but also what other alternatives I can give the patient. So I go into myitero.com, I get the data of my patient, and then I have the scan, and I have a lot of options, such as export the file, can be STL. You can export it to your prosthesis maker. You can also open the simulator. You can open the progress assessment and an author card. And with this, as I said, you cannot use the time lapse. You can only use it straight from iTero. So in this small video, I activate the simulator. We don't have here. I have that instead of using my finger, I have the mouse. I have the cursor that assigns signaling what I'm going to do. For example, here I am extracting the third molars and making a small simulation. I see how it would look like. Here, the patient is not with me. After the simulation, I said, oh, these premolars are not at the right height, so I can see a before and after. I don't like the result. So what do? Well, I start to work and make corrections. So I start to do my orthodonty. But what is interesting to you is, okay, we're going to make an implant plan. So I know that my canine is a much smaller than a regular canine. So I can prepare a simulation showing the patient that after removing, I am going to create room so that we can make the extraction, make an implant, and that the final restoration of the implant will be proportional to the rest of the teeth. So with the simulator, I can calculate how much room I'm going to open. For example, we're going to open 0.5 millimeter. But you that already know how to use iTero and make your analysis, you can know if it's 0.5 millimeters or 0.7, what is better for the patient, of course. But I really like to give the option to the patient to say, okay, you already have this study. Now we can choose the treatment and start. Now, what I'm going to sell you? I am going to sell you the option of having an implant afterwards, or an option of having closure of spaces to make your premolars look like canines. So I can have the extraction of the third molars, but also extract the temporal canines. So I update my simulation, and of course, the algorithm is going to make all of the necessary arrangements and then make all the necessary simulations. And I start to make my orthodontic part. I start to remove the teeth of the patient. So here I already have the extraction of the canines, and I am giving you in a nutshell what I am going to do with this molar and with this canine, but also developing the arcades, because in the moment of the extractions and closure of spaces, there could be a compressor. So we rotate the canine and we ensure that these premolars have a function of canine and that they work better. So it's not a full video, but just a summary of how you can, of how I can use this tool to make the perfect image to the patient and decide with my patient what options they have. Because maybe I tell the patient that the patient needs an implant, but the patient may not have money to make the implant. Or maybe the patient say, okay, I want to do it. So in this case, you need to have all the good options for the patient, right? Because then the patient is going to feel much, much better. And here we also have a video that shows you how I move the teeth, and I can select and move them faster. But here I'm using iTero. You can move a lot more. You can select more teeth. You can move them in groups or clusters. And then I'm going to show you how I can make adjustments with all of the teeth so that I can have this result and propose to the client. But of course, if you have, this is not great science itself, but it's like you can see the arrows, right? You can have all of the control of the teeth, but here the secret is your patience of moving the teeth and playing with the tool so that you can make the best option or the best offer of treatment. Well, you have already seen this video through and through. But anyway, what I'm trying to do is show you in a much clearer fashion how the software can help you. But you can tell the patient, look, your treatment is working well, and with this removal of this premolar, we are making the adjustment of your teeth. It's like we are going to, in this case, we are going to make a camouflage of a canine. Instead of a canine, you're going to use a premolar. But of course, this is great, right? For example, with prosthesis, it helps you in terms of making decision. And this is only due I mean, this is only possible due to iTero that helps us to make a much better decision with our patient. So you show it to the patient and the patient is happy, right? The patient says, oh, I want to show this result to my parents. So you can export this result to the patient. You can send it to the patient via email, and the patient can see with their friends, with the family, show exactly how their mouth is going to be. And so, look, these are my teeth. This is my before and after. So the patient is making a sale for me, an indirect sale. Or I can also export it to my prothesist my prosthesis technician who is going to see, oh, you can make an analysis with this professional, and then you can, of course, go much further. From a simple tool, you can have great results. So today, I explore this tool to the maximum. So once you have sent the email, what do? Well, here you send an email saying you have just received a simulation, and then you receive a second email saying, in order to access the visualization, you need this password. This password is necessary for the sake of privacy, to ensure that the email has arrived to the right person. So we send two emails, one with the link and another one with a code. And so the patient is going to receive all the information, and the patient is not able to move the video or to move the teeth like I did, but the patient can move the teeth 3D using this arrow or this mouse, and the patient can see the before and after. Once I have opened my email, then I can have all of this representation. They can see, for example, oh, this is the temporary tooth, and the temporary tooth is creating the space so that the final restoration is of a canine with a regular size. So the patient at home can make this checkup and helps you. At least this is what I have seen. The client helps you, sending more clients to you, because the friend will see this result and will say, oh, can you do the same for me? Of course you can. So there could also be a second email with a second password saying, look, you can also you also receive a second email with a second simulation of how it would like if you removed the teeth. And of course, this helps you a lot with extractions. There are pros and cons in every one of these cases. So the client has a lot more capacity to decide what they're going to do. Because maybe the parents may say, oh, you're not going to remove your teeth or something like that. So when I share, the client can have a better way of making a decision that can be made between myself as the dentist, the patient, and the family, of course, in some cases. And of course, with this simulation, the patient will not be able even to complain afterwards, because the result is perfect. The client will not be able to say, oh, I didn't like the result because I didn't like what it would look like at the end. But you can say, of course you knew, because I showed it to you. And of course, this is a great tool, not only for sharing the treatment, but also to show the patient how it's going to be. Now, this is another image just to show you some information. Sometimes the clients ask, how do you scan? What is better? I mean, when you scan, you may wonder, what is best? There are many articles that show, there are many articles or papers show that any technique is good. After all, how do you scan? When you scan, you have to make sure that all the surfaces are registered, that the camera is taking pictures to all of the areas of the patient. And how do you do that? Well, you can use you can use this tool. It doesn't matter. What you can see here is that you have different options for you. For example, you look and you say, what is the best for me? What is the best for the client? So you buy your iTero, and all you have to do is choose. So you can feel very much free to scan as you wish. And then at the end is that all of the surfaces are well registered and well scanned. A good retraction so that the teeth can be seen well, that they are not touching the tongue, etc. You know, simple things, basic things. But at the end, the clients can say that there are different alternatives. Well, another case, uh, as I have said, I am showing you all of these tools of each one of this, I mean, each one of the features of this tool. This client helps me to understand the progress assessment. The patient was very happy with the results. So I said, well, I am already using Invisalign in iTero, but you also have a progress assessment. Let's see how your teeth are like. So we see the images, we see the radiography. We know that the patient has a front implant. We see the bite, and also we see how this is translated into a clean check, and we see that it looks perfect, right? So this is very good, right? Because you can see that the patient in the simulation, the patient has a deep bite. So we are going to make a correction in this bite. And this can be done very easily. And here we have the images of the before and the after, the before and after the treatment, right? How Invisalign moved on. Something interesting about this patient is that after the treatment, the patient said that something didn't work well. So we used the progress assessment. And then here we can see the original scan and the current scan, and why the problem was that this tooth had an intrusion power, and and this could happen, right? The the tooth was hidden behind 11, but a secondary effect is that it kind of mounted on the other. But with this progress assessment, I can make the necessary adjustment. For example, when I'm making the simulation, I can use different colors. For example, we have yellow, green. What does it mean? It means that each one of these squares is a different movement. If it is a movement up or down or backwards or front or forward, or if there is an inclination. So you have different colors to show you exactly what happened. How was the initial scan? How is the current scan? Because the patient says, well, this is not good enough. I say, look at the first scan and look at the current scan. A lot has been improved. Of course, we are going to work hard in your treatment. Of course, your case is a little bit complex. You're 60 years of age. Your teeth are not well aligned. And of course, there are many factors that are against you. You have to give me some time so that we can make progress. But in this particular case of this patient, the progress assessment helped me a lot because I was able to see exactly the situation and say, look, I would like that this tooth give you would have a sort of a pick, and you can see that there was the change that I wanted, but this movement was not the expected movement. If in this case it says int of intrusion, you can see that the green tooth is up and it kind of intruded. Also, I wanted to intrude 11 and 20 to 11 to 21. But if we see yellow or gray, what does that mean? It means that these movements are telling me that they are not intruded, and the scan is saying that the movement was not right. And of course, when I see this movement of intrusion, I also feel like, oh, it's just a biomechanical issue. It's not a problem of the aligner, right? I mean, this rotation of 22 is something that is seen a lot with this margin here. And then we put it yellow. Then you can have a different perspective. And for example, intrusion. The intrusions, you can have an equalization of the canine. I made all the necessary alignments, so we can see that there are targets that I am going to reach, and I am very grateful for this progress assessment because it helped me a lot. If you are an orthodontist and if you are a perfectionist, you can be sure that this tool gives you all of the necessary tools. I am sorry, I needed to close my door. I left it open and a client just came in here. So I want to avoid any noise. Sorry about that. Anyway, you can see how it was before in blue. And you can see that the movements were perfect afterwards, especially with the canine that are much closer and a lot more straight. Also, you also have some intrusion here, but the central teeth are much more aligned, right? You can also superimpose. You can superimpose the way it is in the way it should be. Of course, this is also a comparison of how it started. And this is great because you can use this as a motivation for the client. Sometimes you may have to put brackets. Sometimes you put a crown and the crown is too high. You have to make adjustments. Of course, like in any other situation, you can make all the necessary adjustments. But for example, in this case, I can see that the result is amazing. Look how all of the teeth are getting to the same color. We have two white teeth here, and we can see how the alignment took place. In this case, there was a moderate crowding of 3.9. Now it has changed to 2.3. And also there was a moderate crowding in the lower teeth of 3.1, and now is 0.8. It's a mild crowding now. But like everything that are placed, there is room for growth and there is room for improvement in this treatment. I can work on the expansion. I also correct the molar and the canine class. And the most interesting thing is that the teeth that are white, as a surprise, of course, they couldn't move because they were implants. So I really like to say that this is a very smart program because it already knew that there was an implant. And this is great because you can put different colors because in this white, you can put different colors. The program puts different colors, and this is why it puts the two teeth as white because they are an implant, and implants do not move. And I feel really happy to understand all of the biomechanics and all of the services because this is not just a tool. This is more than that. It is helping us in a lot of things. And so this is why I tell you that it is worth having it. So basically, what I have shown to you is my experience with this tool. Of course, I feel very happy for sharing my experience because I see here a great improvement in the quality of my work in my office. And I have been able to see a lot more patients, which is great. Because, of course, this was an investment. But the good thing about this investment is that in addition to making your life easier, it also gives you a lot more free time so that you can see more patients or spend more time with your family. Well, we are now going to the closure, and finally we're gonna come to the Q&As. So these are I would like to make this comment on patience because these things do not happen overnight. These things take time. So you have to understand that now you have a tool. What do you have to do now? You have to train yourself. You have to learn. So it's not about knowing how it works. You know how it works. Now you have to put your hands on it so that you can get all of the necessary experience so that little by little, you're going to be able to discover, like I did, all the amazing features of this tool. I was one of the first dentists to have iTero, but you are going to have to try. And the good thing is your learning curve is going to be very, very quick. So you need to have patience and calm. Do not lose heart. My recommendation is it is worth it to make this investment, not only for you, but also for your clients and for your growth so that you can have great results. So here I would like to share with you the image of my office. In my office, I have two iTero. And as I said, you do not learn things overnight. But in my case, I bought an iTero and then I decided to buy another one because I have 4 surgeons. Because I cannot have my patients waiting for another doctor to finish. So this is why we have two. My office, my patients are being diagnosed much more quicker. Another point that I believe that is very important is your biosecurity or your biosafety. I I saw the need of buying another tool, of buying another iTero. So to close the issue that I mean, these issues that we have been discussing now, I mean, I have shared my personal experience. I've also talked about the, the how to use it in the office, but I also talked about my need to have more. But we have the biosecurity, uh, uh, we have the videos. So I was asked to tell you about my protocols, about how I do it with my patients. So let's go point by point. I would like to tell you what I do. First of all, we have an electronic reminder. We also have a questionnaire of health, for example, to ask the patient if they have had like the symptoms of COVID, like fever, for example. Uh, we also ask our clients to make payments in bank transfers to avoid cash. Also, we don't want our clients to bring anybody with them. If they bring somebody else, it has to be a one person at max. Because when we see adolescents, for example, sometimes they come with their mother and father, and sometimes even brothers. So nowadays, because of the situation of COVID, it's better that they have only one person with them. Also, avoid having any kind of watches or jewels. Also, uh, in, in my office, for example, I have a sink where I used to ask my clients to brush their teeth. Nowadays, I ask my clients to brush their teeth at home, also to use mouth masks and gloves so that to avoid any kind of contamination. If the clients are wearing disposable masks, they have to dispose in the proper place. This is all the instructions that I gave before. Now, during, you have the waiting room. In the waiting room, the client, instead of waiting in the waiting room, it's best for the clients to wait in their car. We also have the medical assessment zone, which is where we take the pressure of a patient, we measure the pressure, we measure fever, etc. We also have a zone of disinfection where we have carpets and we have sanitizer, etc. Also, ask the client to avoid touching surfaces in the office. Well, I give the client a mouthwash as well so that they can wash their mouth. And I ask them to spit their mouthwash in the bathroom. And in the office, when I'm serving the client, I also use a mouth uh, one of those equipments to drain the saliva, but everything that I do is to avoid cross contamination with the COVID. So this is why I ask you not to use those sprayers also in the mouth of your client. And also avoid any rotatory equipment. Do not use anything that has any sort of centrifugate or any kind of sprayer, just to avoid the spread of the virus. So these are our measures that we use to avoid any kind of infection. When the patient leaves the office, make sure that you clean everything. Now let's get into the area of the after. So when the client leaves the office, make sure you clean everything, disinfect the areas, avoid using atomizers, disinfect the areas until they're clean. And you have to start cleaning from the cleanest areas down to the dirtiest one to avoid that the dirt gets into the cleaner area. This is why you have to start from the cleanest to the dirtiest. You can also use ozone as sanitizer. Some people, some say that ozone is toxic, but of course there are different materials that you can use. This is my office. How do I do? I have my own parking space. So ideally, I ask the client to wait in the parking lot. I also have a waiting room in the outside and a waiting room in the inside. And I also have my control zone where I take I measure if the client has a fever, they ask a questionnaire, etc. Once they get into this area, there is a disinfection room where, as you saw in the video, there is a carpet where they can clean their feet, and also they have hand sanitizer, gloves, etc. If the client, in the during phase, here I have made a small video just to show to you. And you can see that I have all of my materials for self-protection and the patient being scanned with iTero. If we are doing Invisalign, then we have the attachments of Invisalign. We also have all of the protection of the patient and protection of the doctor. The doctor is wearing all of the necessary personal safety equipment. And one thing that is very, very important, after the patient has left the office, clean everything with sanitizer, alcohol, everything. And also block, like I have here, the spit. And this is covered because I do not use this during the treatments now because of cross-contamination. And also, for the disinfection, I have this sprayer that is used to disinfect the office. And this is great to give comfort to the patient, right? The patients feel safe that they know that the office is cleaned. The clients can feel that the office is disinfected. Here, this is an example of the before and after. It's a video. And this is, for example, let's say you have an office and you want to clean. Sometimes the particles, they just go up. So you can use this sprinkler to clean. and also use a piece of cloth to clean all of these equipments, as you can see in this video. So you start by using the spray right on the surface. Instead of using right on the surface, you put it on a piece of cloth and then you clean the surface. This may sound simple, but this is a class. Important thing, we want to be ourselves and we want our patients to be safe. I have a reflection. We have always been trained to use protection, not only during the pandemic, but also before. We need to have all of the necessary hygiene protocols so that we can serve our clients with safety. So obviously, with iTero and with our criteria, you need to try to have less visits, less appointments. If you already have to see your patient as least, the minimum time as possible. Try treatments that are less invasive as possible and seek not to use reusable equipment. So, for example, the intraoral camera, as you can see, they have different I have an intraoral camera, but it's fixed. This camera is fixed, so I cannot use because I cannot remove the front part. And of course, that generates a risk of cross contamination. And so this is why I prefer iTero, because iTero has a disposable front. So this is why we recommend you not to use, to use intraoral cameras. In the case of triple syringe, you should avoid using pieces, hand pieces. You should avoid using two. So this is all for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. This is my iTero presentation. I hope the presentation has been interesting enough. I have tried to be as clinical as possible, try not to sound so scientific, and I really hope that you have been able to see my enthusiasm and the love that I have for iTero. And obviously, now we are coming to the Q&A, and I am open to answer the questions. But before I go to the question and answers, I would like to go to a part of a poll that we are going to ask you to answer. We are going to give you a QR code. We need you to scan the QR code, because this QR code, this poll is going to help us to improve our presentations. If we need to add more information or maybe remove information. And of course, I look forward to being with you so that we can share our experiences and share our moments. So we are at your full disposal. So now I would like to ask you, I'm going to ask the technicians to share the QR code so that you can you can scan and you can answer the poll, and then we can start answering the questions. So I have Livia here with me, or Fred, who is online. Fred, Livia, please, could you please put the QR code online? In the meantime, let me answer the questions. Well, the first question says, Doctor, what is it that facilitates the workflow integrating iTero? And is there a positive economical impact upon using the scanner? Well, this question is great. Well, what is it that makes your workflow much easier? Well, to answer in a very summarized fashion, this is what facilitates the most, because there are two things that facilitates actually. It facilitates diagnosis and it facilitates the sale. These are the 2 points. Diagnosis, because it's much easier to see the teeth and to see the bites, and it's easier to explain. And that unites with the second point, which is marketing and sale. Because it is easier to sell and it is easier to explain, you need it. So you do it. And it also has an economical impact. And the question is, does it have a positive, an economical impact? My answer is very easy. Yes, there is an economical impact, because you can see, you can scan, you can see you can see much easier all the treatments that needs to be made. For example, if the client has if have a gum inflamed, you can just do a scan and you can see if it's necessary, for example, to have a deeper cleaning, for example. Another thing, for every patient, iTero is going to help to ensure that iTero is paid by itself. If you buy iTero but you don't use it, it does not give you any benefit. But if you use it, I guarantee you that you are going to have a very good positive result. Question 2. What has motivated you to invest in technology? Was it worth it? Well, what it motivated me was to be different. I am from Mexico, and I spent all my life there. And my father is also an orthodontist, and I used to work with him, and sometimes things are not as we wanted them to be, because we are different people. I don't want to get into a lot of details. So I wanted to be independent, and this is why I moved out. But I decided that I saw the competition, and I thought, I need to be different. I need to bring different things that help me to be different. Of course, this was 5 years ago, and you can see that from this time on, I have been inspired, as well as inspired my colleagues to motivate themselves to buy also, to change their interaction or the way that they do odontology. I think that moving to a different place and wanting to be different is what has brought me and is what has moved me to buy this iTero. Is it worth it? Somebody is asking. Oh, definitely it is worth it. This is a good question, because as we have seen, to me, it has been worth a great deal. But you probably are wondering if it's worth it. Well, let me give you a more thorough answer. when I bought my iTero, I was very nervous. I studied a lot because I know that it is a great risk. It's a lot of money that you could easily be throwing away. So this is why you have to be very careful. But my experience right now is that it was worth it. It has been worth it. It has been worth it to take this risk and buy this equipment, because now, even though it cost me a lot, it was worth it. Because as you can see, this tool today is used uh, in many different situations. Another great thing about iTero is that it gives you a very positive image. So in this sense, I think that it was worth it, because uh, this tool has paid itself, and it has paid itself with flying colors. Because, for example, when you do a crown, the clients go, "Oh, I don't want to do with another doctor, because a doctor told me that to make this crown, it's going to take 7 days to have it ready." Wow, how wonderful that you can do it so much quicker. But anyway, just to answer your question, another question: how do you use iTero for diagnosis? Well, first, you need to understand that these are pictures. So just like we take pictures to see a caries, we take a picture to show the patient, the same happens to iTero. The difference is now it's digital, and this gives us a great advantage: 360 degrees, that allows us to analyze the images all the time and with great ease. So another great thing is that you can diagnose very easily. You diagnose caries, and you can also see if they are, for example, if the gums are inflamed. Uh, all of the clinical diagnosis, when the patient is with their mouth open, sometimes when you have, when you don't have this equipment, you need to use that small mirror to show the patient. But with this tool, things become a lot easier. Question 4. My name is Rosalusa from Chile. My question is, with the digital, can you help me with treatments? Well, I think that this question is, I don't understand the question very well, but what I understand from the question is, first of all, let me say hello to Chile. Well, you are not an orthodontist. This is not a problem. And this is precisely why I focus on it. This tool is for all the dentists. This is not a tool only for orthodontists. iTero is for a clinic, an integral clinic, and because in my standpoint, an integral clinic should have iTero. It can help me with inversion in treatments. I don't know. I don't understand the question. If there is an investment, iTero helps you to sell. If your question is if iTero helps you sell, oh yes, it does. iTero helps you to sell, which is great. Sometimes selling is not that easy, so it helps you invest. Now, This practice is for all of Latin America. We just need to see specifically where you are. I need to know exactly where you are, because iTero can be paid on a monthly basis, right? And this is great because you do not have to make a huge investment at first. Uh, of course, you can make an investment, but making an investment does not mean that you need to get rid of all your financials. I mean, you don't have to go bankrupt to buy iTero or to rent iTero. If I hope this was the question. The question is if my consultation, my number of consultation has increased with iTero, and the answer is yes. And it is yes because I can see more clients. It's not that the price of the consultation is different, because a patient comes to the office and say, "Oh, do you have iTero?" And then he starts using. Because my doctor has iTero, I recommend you use it. This I don't agree with. But with a tool, with this kind of technology, the patients are your marketers. So iTero is super technological. So teenagers, for example, when they come to the office, they say, "Mom, iTero is very technological." So it's a convincer. Another thing, iTero gives me free time. With iTero, I can make all of the preparations in a matter of minutes. You have a simulator and you can use this strategy, but the Neo registry, when you scan, for example, pictures, because after all, this is what it is, you have the upper arcade and the lower arcade, and this is it. So with the other, you have to take you have to register the upper part, the lower part, you have to register the byte. You have to repeat impression several times. And of course, that makes you waste time. So this is what happens with impression materials. Uh, with iTero, we don't have a lot of mistakes, we don't have a lot of errors, but we need to keep on trying. So, I mean, with the other tools, with iTero, this you don't have to do that because you can just have more time. So, for example, to do a crown, it takes me about an hour to do. With iTero, it takes me half an hour. So I can that gives me room, for example, to see a third patient that I couldn't see otherwise. So it's not because you have iTero in your office, but because iTero is modern, because iTero is digital, and also because it optimizes your work, especially your clinic. This is why you should have it. This is how you grow your business. Uh, and photo upload, is it a tool for phone or is it in iTero? Well, uh, it is a tool that you can use as you wish. This is not the focus of the event, but this is a tool that complements the digital world. Only this helps us to see to have a much better daily practice, because I have the photo uploader, I have the progress assessment, I have iTero, I mean I have my iTero. So in my practice, this is what I share with you. And it's not in iTero, it's just an app. Question: have you used iTero in all kinds of patients or only Invisalign? Well, as you can see, I use in every kind of patient. Of course, Invisalign is strong. This is my specialty. But patients that come, patients that are scanned, Patients that come are patients that are scanned because we can detect caries, we can detect malfunctions. So this is why it is interesting. iTero has helped me to identify a third molar. So I was able to identify a third molar in a consultation or in an appointment thanks to iTero. And this is great. And here in Querétaro, this tool has helped me to increase my number of clients. In other words, my client list. In what option do I have to in I would like to greet my friends in San Salvador, in El Salvador. Well, in this practice, there are doctors that have already, there are doctors that probably have already used iTero, and there are client doctors that have never used iTero before. One of the advantages that you can use for this iTero is that you can scan for Invisalign. You can scan, for example, for crowns. You can also scan, for example, to have your own system. You can also export as an STL file so that it can be read in any car without any problem. Or you can also create an Invisalign file to be used in Invisalign. So the question is, when you see the different options that you want in your consultation, you have one option that says record Invisalign. And there is a second option that says Invisalign, no, records. And the third option is Invisalign plus record. And this is my recommendation. Why? Because Invisalign is the one that makes the image available for Invisalign. So if there is a record, you can export the STL file and make whatever you want, do whatever you want. You can do diagnosis. So Invisalign plus iRecord is the option with which I start with my clients. This is my predetermined option, because if I have to export the files, I can just use my iRecord to make the provisions or the provisional things. And if you are a prosthesis expert, if you're not an orthodontist, you can ask your orthodontist. I mean, you can facilitate the life of your orthodontist. Another question: your client visits your office less because of this digital? Well, yes and no. This is why I say yes and no, because you have less appointments because it's digital. Yes, because you're going to have the diagnosis a lot faster. And it will require a lot less consultation time. However, maybe you don't understand how Invisalign generates less consultation or appointment. Well, this is why I say it depends. Because, for example, if you have a special crown, a specific crown, of course, you need to have all of the protocol and you have all of the preparation. So in this case, you have no change in number of appointments. But with Invisalign, you can keep on monitoring the client. And because from a distance, and this is why you can ask your clients that
you can tell your client that he doesn't have to come every day. And this is why I tell you that you can have less appointments with the patient, with one single patient, but you can have a lot more appointments with many other patients because you're going to have more free time uh, because let's say when the client comes, you just do a scanner and you already have a whole picture of all the teeth. So I believe that it does reduce the number of appointments in the office. Another question, Doctor, what do you think of a training for using iTero? Well, in my personal experience, it has been great. Ever since I bought iTero, I have been having great success. I am a self-learner. Uh, when I wanted to learn, the people from my office, the people from my tarot kept asking me about my training. They wanted me to have my training, of course, because they want to make sure that the iTero users are good users. They don't want people just to buy iTero because what is going to be good for iTero is not sales, but the use. So the support from iTero is amazing. They just answer promptly and nicely. I already have three iTero. One of my iTero, the second one, the sensor of the camera was deregulated, wasn't scanning. So it was amazing the support that I received because in 3 days I had a new sensor, a new camera working in my office, and they didn't charge a single cent. So this warranty changed everything. So my experience is that it's extraordinary, like no other. Of course, I am putting a lot of flowers, giving a lot of flowers per se, but I bought the first iTero, then the second, and now I already bought my third iTero. I really love the the I really love the attention that is given by support for all of the iTero users. So I highly recommend that you buy iTero. A question: Does would you recommend me buy iTero? Of course, I already said I do. uh, ah, I received a question, but I don't know what country this question is coming from. I see that there are many clients. I mean, I see a lot of people here from Costa Rica. Well, if you're from Costa Rica, this would not be a problem. Uh, in my case, for example, as I said, in 3 days I had my camera replaced. So support is great. Uh, I don't want you to 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 think that in your country you're also going to be assisted in 3 days. In my case, it happened, but I assure you that iTero has a great support, and it can serve you perfectly. I am happy with iTero. My dentists are also happy. This is why I have my third iTero. Third question for you: the tip of the scanner, isn't it too big? Because it could complicate the posterior scanning? Well, in my personal opinion, it is not. You can scan your patients. In the video that I showed you, this was the goal. I had a 4-year-old child, and I could scan the whole mouth of the child. The child didn't cry, didn't feel sad. I didn't have to tell the child to do anything. I mean, it was fast and easy. It isn't uncomfortable. I scanned a 4-year-old child, but I've also scanned elder citizens, and I've never had any problem. So I think that this answers your question regarding age, and it's not really, it doesn't bother the patient much. This scanner is good because it reaches areas of difficult access, especially if you're talking about the third molar, or if you want to restore number 18. And so when you have the access, you can isolate. When you do the scan, you can see the tooth that is not working well. You can isolate it, and then you can put some ricin. I am not going to tell you that I'm not going to tell you that this scanner is going to be 100%. I mean, depending on the patient, maybe you're going to have a little bit difficulty scanning some different points or different parts of the mouth. But in general, I think that it has a great standard like any other scanner. For example, I have never had any patient that felt uncomfortable or anything. This scanner is good for zones of difficult access. Of course, like I've shown you, I was able to scan a 4-year-old girl without any problem. I'm not here to lie. All of my experience here is personal. Doctor, question, doctor. How long did it take you to, how long did it take iTero to respond your intervention? Well, they're very quick. The question is, doctor, how can I get my money back with my investment in iTero? Well, in my case, my investment took me 9 months to get my money back. In the second iTero, the return was in 6 months. And the third iTero, the return was very, very quick. It took me less than 6 months because the tool pays itself very quickly. Of course, my experience with the first iTero helped me to reduce the time of my return on my investment in the second and the third, because I already had the previous knowledge. And this is why I have iTero, because it makes my life a lot easier, and I can provide great assistance to my patients. And I have another question. Doctor, thank you very much for your time. Have you ever done the simulator in iTero once you have scanned? This is a question from Lima, Peru. So greets my friends in Lima, Peru. Well, the question is interesting because you have to save your simulations. How does the simulator work? Well, you have made the simulation, you open, close. When you open your simulator and you simulate, once you're going to close, it asks, do you want to save your simulation? If you say yes, you save it. If you say no, you don't, you lose it. And if you save it, you have to save it with a special name so that you can go back to it. Or in the iTero itself, in the screen, there is a button that says share. So you can share and send it via email or any other means of sharing with the simulator open. To share, the simulator has to be open. If it is an older simulation, you should have saved it. If you don't save it, then you have lost it. And then share. I mean, from the screen of iTero in the simulator, you can share. So, question. So, I mean, this was the last question. I haven't seen any other question. So, I am very happy. I believe that this was a good class. I'm very happy for the questions, and I'm happy to share my experience. And well, if there are no further questions, we're just going to leave you with my final remarks for myself and Livia. Yes, Ricardo, we have already finished with the questions and we answered some very interesting questions. And so, Ricardo, thank you very much once again for such a wonderful lesson, and especially for sharing your experiences, because I believe that they are very rich, they're very incredible, than more than anything. This was a very inspiring lesson, so I'm very happy, and I thank you very much once again. Well, to me, it was a great pleasure. And thank you, Livia. Thank you, all of the students. Or I wish you all wonderful success. And I really hope that this lesson helped you to take a step further towards buying your iTero. I'm sure you won't regret. And count on me in any regard. If you want to have any more individual or personal answer, you can find me on my social media. I answer my questions that are sent to me personally, because you are my colleagues, you are my friends, and after all, our goal here is to grow and help our clients. The better we are, the better the world will be. So thank you very much for all of you who are here with us tonight. Well, I would like to take this point from Ricardo to thank you, all of you who've been with us. Thank you very much once again for taking part in this event and being with us. And once again, do not miss your opportunity to learn about the applicability of iTero in your daily routine. You can get in touch with our managers. We are going to share their contact with you now. Also, we have a satisfaction survey that we would like you to answer to us. Good night, everyone. And once again, welcome to Digital Odontology. We'll see you shortly.